Hey everyone, welcome to another AI conversation. And today I'm very happy to be joined by a journalist. I think there's been a lot of chatter about AI in journalism. There's so many angles. There's fake news, there's robot sportscasters. So I'm very happy to welcome Miss Mav Gonzales. Hi, Miss Mav. Welcome to
Hi,
the
good evening
conversation.
po. Hello, how are you?
Good, good, good. And I'm very happy to finally be here talking to you. I'm sure super sikat ka na. Taglish
Hmm.
tayo. Pwede tayo mag-Taglish. But
Okay.
can you, for the few people, maybe the two people who doesn't know you, can you give a brief background on yourself and what you do?
Okay, I'm a journalist for GMA Integrated News. So I'm the Senate reporter and subsequently also a sports reporter. And I've been with GMA for 11,
Wow.
11 going 12 years.
Career. Career na
And
yan.
medyo, medyo ancient na ako sa GMA. And I guess that's it. I'm also a fellow pala of Asian Journalism Fellowship, and yeah, that's pretty much where I learned all the things I know about our topic later.
Yeah, yeah, sige. But obviously, there's a lot to discuss about AI. But um, the life of a journalist is probably a mystery to most people, at least the audience. Though. So, if you don't mind, can I ask, why journalism? How did it get started for you?
Actually, I took up journalism in college, but I was also taking up public relations and advertising, and I actually didn't know what I wanted to do after college. But I went to Ateneo, and ang journalism sa Ateneo ay mostly writing. There's nothing na specific na, ay, gusto ko maging TV reporter. There's no broadcom like UP.
Hmm.
And so I was writing and in English.
Right.
And alam naman po natin, if you want to work for a TV network in the Philippines, it's in Filipino. So I had no training whatsoever. And after college, I became a courtside reporter and I was writing on the side for GMA News Online for sports also. So lahat po sports yung ginagawa ko. But then one day, parang nagkaroon ng opening sa GMA for a sports reporter na babae. And I said, okay, sige, I'll audition for it. And nung nandun ako sa GMA, biglang, surprise, you're a news reporter, you're doing sports, pero gagawa ka rin ng iba pang balita. And now, it's barely it's barely sports. I do mostly politics. So mostly
Mm.
political reporting na yung yun. And I guess nag-enjoy naman ako because I'm still here. I've been here for quite some time. And medyo iba lang po yung parang iba lang yung atmosphere when you're covering sports versus when you're covering politics.
Interesting. Could you? I mean, it sounds obvious, but maybe compare the two. So how's the sports beat compared to the politics beat?
Ah, lagi kong sinasabi is one keeps me sharp, the other keeps me sane.
Okay. I wonder which
So
one.
obviously, yeah, and I think interchangeable siya for some people, but then for me, politics really keeps me sharp. Kasi po sa Senate,
Ah,
we would cover like 5, sometimes 8-hour hearings.
right.
And as a TV reporter, you have to be noting everything. Hindi pwedeng makinig ka ng 1 hour and then sige, wag na yung 7 kasi meron akong storya dito sa unang oras eh. It's
Mm,
not like that. If you're a reporter, especially if you work for TV, na you need interviews, you need, ang tawag namin doon, sound bites. So
right.
when you need sound bites, you have to listen to the whole thing. So 8 hours na you're listening to a Senate hearing, which, may I add, is not always exciting. Most of the time, it's boring. It's boring, serious stuff, masyadong technical. Kaya po, isang mahirap din sa kanya ay kailangan mo ibaba yung
To
conversation,
to
I
the
guess.
level of everyone, right?
Oo, to the level of the viewers that we have in GMA, and alam naman natin masa yung viewership ng GMA. So kailangan yung naiintindihan nila kasi ba't sila manonood ng balita na o sige importante yan pero di namin naiintindihan. So ba't kami manonood? Whereas when you cover sports, you can hardly get too technical dahil sobrang simple. At
Yeah.
saka ang kino-cover ko po nun mostly ay basketball, football, and boxing.
Okay.
So these are sports that parang lahat naman ng Pilipino naiintindihan 'to. So ang dali-dali mag-cover, and of course kapag nagko-cover ka ng games, gaano katagal lang yun, parang isa't kalahating oras or 2 oras, ta's para ka lang naglalaro kasi nanonood ka, ganyan. So medyo malaking shift po siya nung lumipat ako from
Sports
sports
to
to
politics.
politics.
Okay.
And I guess the personalities as well, because there's a certain, paano ba? Medyo kasi pag sa Pilipinas especially, pag inisip mo politiko, parang ibang level, ganun.
Very
Whereas ako kasi,
personality driven, no?
yeah. Kasi
Politicians.
halimbawa sa akin, sa mga athletes na kino-cover ko, a lot of them, I grew up with these people. Kasi college pa lang, I was already covering the UAAP, NCAA. So, parang friends ko sila. And parang there was never an issue na, uy, ibang level tong mga kausap ko, ganyan. But when you're covering politics, parang, okay, so, ito na yung mga who's who in society. So, medyo iba yung trato mo dun sa mga kino-cover mo ngayon po.
Senator Pacquiao must have been interesting because he was an athlete turned politician, or was that just, you know,
That was
being
that was very interesting. Actually, when I started in GMA, sports, when I say sports, it's basically Pacquiao. Kasi
pretty
po si
much?
Manny was a GMA talent.
Mhm.
So, all his fights were aired sa amin. Well, most of his fights were aired sa amin. So, kapag nagko-cover ako ng sports, it was mostly his boxing training. So, training camps, I would be there. I'd be in the province for months.
Mhm.
I'll go with him to wherever he's fighting. And nung napunta siya sa Senate at ako rin nandun na, nung nagkita kami doon, parang, oh, sinusundan mo ako. Tapos sabi ko sa kanya, oo nga no, parang oo nga no. So, ngayon wala na siya sa Senate and we don't know if he's coming back. But it was very interesting because it was like parang a whole new world na
Yeah.
feeling ko sa tagal ng kinover ko si Manny Pacquiao, kilala ko na siya. Pero pag nandun siya sa Senate, parang, parang ibang tao tong nakikita ko dito pag nagsasalita siya.
He
It's
dresses much
very
better in the
interesting.
Senate, obviously, because of, everyone's in a costume there, well dressed, suits,
Yes.
bang, yeah.
Oo. At saka, paano ba? Siyempre mas English kapag ka nasa Senate din siya. Kasi kapag nasa labas siya, mostly Tagalog or Bisaya pagkakausap mo siya eh. Pero pag nandun,
He does speak English,
very,
no,
very
in the Senate.
parliamentary.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember he studied. Sorry, this became a Pacquiao biopic bigla ba.
Oh.
But he studied, right? He studied political
Yes.
science ba or something? Yeah, okay.
Parang he studied a public administration
Public ad.
course na, because he was going to be a public official. I'm not sure if it's mandatory, but he did study. So parang tinuturuan sila parang the basics of legislation and governance,
That's
ganyan.
awesome. That's awesome. Okay, sige. Before we even get to the real topic, para we can really establish a shift, no? In a typical, let's say, day-to-day stuff, as a journalist, what are like the five, if ever, things on the top of your head? Para you kind of can put people in your shoes. You wake up, you're on the job. What are the top things in your head?
Well, for one, because I cover the Senate mostly now, number one is ano yung hearings today?
Mhm.
Like which one would be the most interesting? And ano yung stories for the day? Because unlike other beats, senators' opinions on things are pretty important. So, hindi lang porket, okay, so kunwari may nangyari, halimbawa na lang yung sa Israel, yung nangyayari ngayon sa Israel and Gaza,
Sure.
they have something to say about it. And most of the time, they're important things na kailangan mong pakinggan dahil, these people are shapers of our society. So, hindi pwedeng hindi mo sila pakinggan. And another thing is, siguro as a journalist, important din sa akin na kung ano yung kino-cover ko sa Senate na sinasabi ko nga minsan masyadong technical, na magawa ko siyang simple. So that's one of the things. And siguro number 4 is that I air on 24 oras because it's a very limited newscast. So syempre hindi rin naman lahat ng balita for the day ay mae-ere. And the most important thing for me, number 5 is lunch. Kung ano yung lunch namin sa Senate, that's
Keep nourished.
the thing. Yeah, that's the thing I look forward to the most. Parang pag umaga, pagdating mo doon, iniisip mo na ano kayang kukunin natin for lunch mamaya, ganyan.
You're quite right earlier, kasi I had the privilege of sitting in Congress naman. And it's not as exciting as people think. Kasi obviously, what you see in the news on TV is already the edited,
Yeah.
condensed version. So you highlight kind of the spike for the day.
Mm.
But for the most part, you're just reading laws and passing bills, or kahit nga yung mga debates, diba? All these privileged
Mm.
speeches and debates. That's probably less than 10% of the
Yeah.
full experience, no?
It is. And it goes like for long hours. Usually my shift starts at 8 a.m. and I usually get home mga 8:30. So
So,
like
wow, it's a
that's
12-hour shift,
that's my life.
basically,
Yes, yes.
excluding traffic pa yan. Okay,
Mhm.
sige. Again, before we even jump there, again, to fully flesh out the journalist persona, can you give an example of what is a happy day for you and what is a horrible day for you as a journalist, if you can share?
Siguro a happy day is when you cover something significant and you know na it mattered. Siguro recently, from the top of my head lang, nagkaroon ng pagbaha sa EDSA. I think that was 2 weeks ago. Na
Yes.
bumaha yung EDSA na nawarla lahat ng tao kasi parang hindi bumaba sa EDSA pero bumaha sa EDSA and stuck in traffic everyone. And I was there and it was such a hard task because dahil nga nabarahan yung EDSA, wala kaming madaanan. So naglakad kami ng crew ko. And my
Mm,
crew, because they were stuck in traffic, ako mag-isa yung nag-cover. So I was using cellphone videos for everything, and then it aired on the news, and there's a sense of accomplishment. That's a good day for me. And I
mm,
guess a sad day is when you work for very, very, very long hours and then nothing comes out of it. Because like, let's face it, minsan yung mga hearing sa Congress, not just sa Senate, even sa House, they could go on for hours pero wala talagang storya.
mm.
Meaning, puro luma or medyo out of touch naman sa public. So parang, hala, nag-notes ako ng 8 hours, walang nangyari. Yun yung mga hell days. And when there's so many things going on, because I'm only one reporter sa Senate, so pag nagsabay-sabay yung hearings and press conferences, ay wala na. Parang hinati ko na yung katawan ko dahil wala akong kahati sa trabaho.
Right. Right. Okay. So it's not all glamour, is I think the bottom line, no? There are dry days, there are bad days, but then occasionally you got good times. Okay, that's good. Sige, now let's get into the topic at hand. Obviously, this is an AI conversation and we want to talk about artificial intelligence. So, from where you stand or where you sit at the moment, how did you first encounter AI of any type? Di ba naalala mo during the GMA briefing, I said there were several types of AI. But for you, no, when you first heard about artificial intelligence, how did you first encounter it?
I don't even remember the first time I encountered it. Kasi halimbawa na lang Google. I've been using Google for such a long time, and Google uses a form of AI, like just to thresh out the algorithms.
Hmm.
But if we're talking about yung generative, siguro nasimulan ko siyang ma-encounter just this year.
Okay.
Because when I went on my fellowship in Singapore, the newsrooms were using it, and they were using it like quite hugely. So parang it was also a learning experience for me, I guess, dahil parang, oh, sa Pilipinas parang di ko pa ito nakitang ginagawa. Tapos dito parang it's all over the place. So I
Hmm.
guess that's the first time I really encountered yung generative na AI, which
Right.
I think is the more ano ba, controversial one, for lack of a better word, because like the other kinds of AI is parang hindi mo nga napapansin na nandyan siya eh. Pero ito parang medyo may splash.
Right. Kasi before your generative AI, parang AI was like behind the scenes or it was embedded into the program already. It's not something you really interact with. How was the first time you used ChatGPT? What was it for? Do you remember?
I haven't really used ChatGPT for anything important. I used
Okay.
it just to see how it looks. So I
Okay.
tried it lang, parang sabi ko, write me an article about parang FIBA World Cup yata yung topic nun eh. Talagang very recent nito lang, parang August.
Mm.
And parang sabi ko lang, gawa ka nga ng article about the FIBA World Cup. Okay. And I saw it and I think it was pretty good. I mean, all
Decent,
things
decent
considered,
article. Okay.
it's an actual article. I mean, um, paano ba? Okay, not to sound mayabang, pero I can tell that this was written by,
AI.
not really by AI, but someone who doesn't know how to write.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because parang paano ba? Parang it was so basic. It was so parang facts na medyo in-embellish mo lang yung pagkakasulat. And that's not how a journalist would write it. Like if an actual journalist would write it, there would be like some permutation of things, hindi lang siya parang facts, tas siningita mo ng mga flowery words. And if I didn't know that it was written by I wouldn't be able to tell. I just say that's a bad writer. But dahil alam ko na AI siya, parang mabibilib ka rin na parang, oh, okay, talagang kinuha niya lang to all from the internet and it was able to come up with something like this.
Right. That's a good point, though. I mean, at the moment, from where you sit again, do you think AI is a threat to journalism or to a journalist's job specifically?
I honestly don't think so because I'm only speaking like for my role as a TV reporter because I'm not sure for halimbawa radio or for web print reporters digital kasi halimbawa sa amin sa TV you go out on the field and that's something AI would not do unless like may robots na tayo na nagfi-field, 'di ba? And another thing that I think AI will never be able to replace a journalist is perspective. Like because of perspective, you're able to write a story that has emotion, that has heart, and kung ang ginawa mo lang ay kinuha mo lahat ng information from the internet, from everything that's available to you, then you wouldn't be able to say something in a certain way. Halimbawa, meron akong kasamang reporter dati, si Athena Imperial. She was writing a story about a child na namatay dahil sa COVID. And because she's a mom, she's able to discuss that story in a way na parang, parang ginaganon yung puso mo. And I don't think AI will be able to do that. Because just because it has no experience na kagaya ng mga posibleng i-cover niya. And that's the part that I think na hindi kaya palitan ng AI yung mga taong journalist.
Kind of like the soul, no? The soul of writing or something like that. Okay. But okay, sige. That's good. How about benefits? Do you see AI being helpful to the day-to-day job of a journalist?
For me, it can be very helpful. For example, I was always saying na, alam nyo kung yung transcription, yung translation, kaya gawin ng AI, it will make the job easier for all of us. And the thing is, ang problema lang ay, parang wala pang AI na very fluent in Filipino, in Tagalog, or any of our dialects.
Right.
So, hindi pa siya magamit talaga as much as we want to. But if there was one, then I would highly suggest sa GMA na let's do it dahil talagang dadali yung trabaho. And for me, I think one of the things na feeling ko kulang pa kasi doon sa technology that we have now. So there's AI where you just upload something, 'di ba? Halimbawa an audio clip or a video file tapos ita-transcribe niya kung anong laman nun. It wouldn't work for me because I work sa Senate where the hearings last for hours. So kailangan ko na ng parang now na. So if there was a transcription method na in real time, yun talaga parang oh my god, that's like half of my job. If there was something like that, that would help journalists a lot.
Like real-time annotation or real-time transcription. Okay. Okay. I'm sure there is, but I just I have to double check, no? Because for example, in a Zoom call or in a Google Meet, meron ng mga subtitling na nangyayari, but I just don't know if that's something you can use on the job, no. But I
I
can't.
tried Google Doc.
Okay.
Di ba meron siya yung parang speech to text?
Yeah.
But the problem with it is hindi niya nasusundan yung Filipino masyado. At kapag medyo bumilis ka na magsalita, hindi niya nakaya.
Right.
Kailangan medyo banayad ka magsalita para maintindihan niya at ma-type niya ng maayos. And parang dahil nga po ako sa hearings, hindi mo naman pwede sabihin dun sa naghi-hearing na parang wait lang po, hinay-hinay lang tayo kasi hindi namin masundan. So, I think if there was something that could easily pick up yung salita in real time ng mga tao, then that would be like super, super helpful.
Yeah. I've tried the speech to text. For example, on an Android, lalo na if you're driving, you can't type, no? Yeah, you're right. I mean, it gets most of it correct, but you have to speak steady and slowly.
Yeah.
And then there are words na so ambiguous na you have to edit it anyway. But it does take some of the effort away rather than lalo na if you have to entertain a message, which is actually not recommended, by the way. You're not supposed to text while driving. Pero pero anyway, just for that.
Let's delete that from the tape.
Okay, sige. Of course, there's no discussion about AI that won't eventually get into the ethics of it or responsibility of it. Any perspectives on that as a journalist? What do you see are kind of the dangers for these tools, if any?
I think one thing na mahirap kapag masyado kang nag-rely sa kanya, especially when you're researching backgrounders for your story. Because we already established na AI gathers everything it can gather from the internet. It doesn't discriminate between fact and fake.
Correct.
So, kung kunwari maraming fake dyan, tapos sinabi mo lang kunwari, gawa ka ng article about Israel, ganyan. Tapos maraming fake na halimbawang balita na nandyan din. Hindi naman yun matitel ng AI eh. So, mamaya yung lumabas na backgrounder mo, maraming mali.
True.
So, I think it's still incumbent sa mga journalists na mag-verify at mag-fact check ng sarili nila, di ba? But the danger is when you're under time pressure, when it's crunch time for the newsroom, baka mamaya, kinopya mo lang ng kinopya. And another thing is, sometimes you do background researches for interviews. What if you ask something and it was mali? Di ba nakakahiya? Especially if it's like a public press conference, nakakahiya. So, I think over-reliance on it and not doing your own legwork will
It's
really
dangerous.
cause a lot of trouble. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I take it as of this time, you don't rely on the kind of AI for any research or not completely. Would that be accurate?
No, not completely. I like doing my own legwork, like especially, for example, I cover a lot of laws.
Right.
So what I would do is I go direct to the website, for example, Senate or the House of Representatives, and then I would research from there. And I like doing my own legwork just because very technical yung kino-cover ko. And if you make one mistake, I could be
That's
sued
it.
for libel.
Yeah. That's
So
that's the end of your
it's the
decades
end of my
long career.
career. So
Okay.
parang kung magkamali ako, at least kasalanan ko.
You mentioned limitations. And maybe one thing that I want to ask you about. Obviously, these technologies are not static. They evolve.
Mhm.
So apart from the real-time transcription, that sounds like an order already. We can send to some developers, no, come up with something like this, no, maraming bibili yan. Any other areas that you think AI could help in terms of the kind of the day-to-day grind as a journalist, or even other tasks
The
other than transcription?
translation, yeah, the translation will be a big thing because halimbawa na lang po, I used to cover President Duterte a lot. And kapag nagsimula na siya magbisaya, wala na ako naiintindihan. So, hindi na ako nakapag-cover. Parang 1 hour siya magbibisaya, tapos parang wala, anong sinasabi niya, wala ko naiintindihan. So, if there was something that could translate dialects, especially dahil nasa Pilipinas tayo. And sometimes we do cover international news. So, if there was something that could translate other languages into Filipino, then that would be very helpful for us also. And what else? I think for now, those are the things. Kasi yun yung sinasabi ko, yung pain points. Yun yung pain points for me as a journalist. So, yun yung mga naiisip ko na pwedeng i-address ng AI. But then, like, for example, the writing and the choosing of sound bites, ganyan. I think I would still prefer na I do it by myself kahit na medyo tedious task siya. Dahil I think writing is 80% of the job as a journalist. And kapag inasa mo yun sa AI, parang, ano pong ginawa mo dyan? Di ba?
You've
Parang,
invalidated your existence, parang ganun
oo,
na sa'yo.
parang, anong ginawa mo? Parang nag-gather ka lang talaga and parang sinubo mo lang sa AI, siya na bahala.
Does that, just trying to unpack that, no? Does that violate kind of any ethics or parang integrity as a journalist? Parang you feel you need to be the one to do the final edit or to do the final writing, and that's why AI shouldn't be in that process. I don't know, just thinking out loud.
I think writing, pwede mo talaga siyang ipagawa sa AI because I know that a lot of reputable websites already do this. News websites abroad. And ang importante lang sa kanya ay like what you said, Sir Doc, na dumadaan siya sa human check. Because we already know na hindi nga, it's possibly not 100% accurate and factual. So, kailangan na i-check mo pa rin siya para alam mo na tama yung ginawa ng AI, di ba? And I think what's very important is that there's a disclosure na this was produced by AI or produced with the help of AI.
Mhm.
You cannot, I, I don't think, the same way na ayaw mo mag-plagiarize, na kumukuha ka ng credit
Mm.
for someone else's work. I think you should also do it for AI. Na, okay, this was done with the help of this specific application, for example, then you have to give credit to that application because you didn't do it. Diba?
Yeah.
Parang
So
kumuha ng,
so in your mind,
yeah,
the AI and the journalist are two distinct things, no? Or two distinct
yes,
agents, no?
yes,
And you need to mention the other agent
yeah.
before taking the credit for it.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think also if, for example, for writing, if discriminate yung reader mo,
Mm.
matitel naman nila yun eh. Parang lalo kung halimbawa, alam nila yung writing style mo, hello, parang bakit masyadong iba yata itong pagkakasulat nito? Matitel nila yun. Well, ako kasi nagsusulat ako, I write for a living so I can tell
Mm.
differences in writing styles. But actually, oo nga, no? Baka yung mga simpleng, ano lang, news consumers lang, baka hindi naman nila matel yun. But I think it's ethical that you declare that it wasn't just you that made this news article or news story, that it was done with the help of some AI app.
Right. Um, I just had an idea about, and let me know what you think of this. So, whether to use AI or not, obviously, is a serious consideration for a journalist. What about your competitors? No, when I say competitors, it's other sources of maybe not so reliable information, but it's kind of part of the market. No, if news is a market, people have choices on where to get it from. So first and foremost, social media, which already uses AI for, I don't know, filtering and parang creating echo chambers. Have you had a thought about that? Like me, you might be a really good journalist doing really good journalism, pero when you kinascade mo na sa social media, there's a chance your stuff wouldn't even get read because of the way kind of that social media works.
Mhm.
So how do you feel about that, or any thoughts around that?
Of course, it's kind of disheartening to a certain point. Kasi parang ikaw pinaghirapan mo yung storya mo and then there's like some video or clip na, alam mo yun, na generate lang ng someone else who didn't really like study the topic and write it, but then it gets more views, for example. But I think that's, as a journalist, my job is to produce quality stories.
Yep.
Disseminating it is the job of the production people or our social media team.
Mm.
And if, for example, social media, binanggit niyo po yung social media. We have a social media team in GMA
Mm-hmm.
for news specifically. So it's their job to like boost the stories or make sure that it competes with other sources. But me as a journalist, I really have no control over my readers or my viewers. And I think my job is to just make sure that my stories are of good quality. It's the best quality na kahit na sabihin mong hindi siya as
Viral or whatever, right?
yeah, as viral, I guess, as
Mm-mm.
viral as other sources of news, I know that what I did was like right. It was
Quality
correct.
journalism. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quality journalism. And I think if there will always be a market for quality journalism
Mm-hmm.
because matalino naman yung mga tao eh. Like as much as meron din talagang mga hindi discerning na tao, there are people who really like can tell na oh, okay, this is fake. This is not good. This is not a good source.
Okay.
And you just have to also, I guess, have some faith in your viewers and your readers na they're not just after viral stories, that they're after quality stories about quality topics.
Right. I think it's a bigger sin probably to be the opposite, where you only write stuff because it trends or viral. Parang click, you're just chasing
Clickbait.
clicks, mga ganyan, no? That wouldn't be journalism na, no? That would be sensationalism na, no? Ibang topic na yun. Although there is an overlap actually.
Mhm.
Sige, okay, that's one. Level one. Level two. What about could be the same answer by the way. What about other journalists? Let's say one day the market will be divided between those who just adopt AI and maybe at the expense of the quality, and then those that maintain that integrity. And maybe one of the optics could be those guys who adopt it can generate like 100 times more stories, just flood the market with it. Any thoughts around that? How do you feel about that?
I'm the kind of person kasi na I'm not after number eh. I've
Mm-hmm.
never been that kind of person. For example, um, halimbawa na lang social media. My personal social media accounts. I've been advised so many times by social media team na parang, tignan mo yung post mo, parang dapat once or twice a day nagpo-post ka.
Mm-hmm.
Para, alam mo yun, you stay on the radar of people. Something like that.
Sure.
And ako parang, post na nga. Feeling ko worth posting. Parang, ano yung post ko, di ba? Ganyan. So, I've always been the kind of person I post like every other day or every 2-3 days, ganyan. Kasi feeling ko wala akong worthwhile na ipopost. And I think yung mga tao magsasawa rin sa'yo if post ka ng post na wala namang kwenta.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for example na lang, I don't have TikTok by the way. So, Instagram.
I have one.
Instagram.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm
So,
so proud to
so,
admit.
so you scroll. And kapagka yung mga lumalabas na sa feed ko, puro mga nonsense na, I just turn it off. Kasi parang, ano ba 'to? Ano ba 'tong nakikita ko?
Mm-hmm.
And I think siguro sa mas matandang audience, siyempre binibida ko na yung sarili ko sa mas matandang audience, no? We're more after something na may substance na not because ay ano 'to, ang dami kong makukuha dito in such a short time. It doesn't uh, it doesn't follow that I would like subscribe to you because of that. If what I'm seeing from you is medyo nonsense or hindi naman nga quality, parang hindi pa rin ako magsasubscribe sa'yo, hindi pa rin ako magfo-follow sa'yo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, good. So first level social media, second level the other journalist. What was your
Mhm.
view on this was a interesting moment. I don't know if it was last year, probably late last year, where there was this interesting, it's dead na, no? Parang moment where the vloggers and basically the alternate media, if you can call them that. Although meron ding alternate media kasi hindi yung term. Pero the vloggers are
Vloggers, okay.
suddenly clamoring for recognition. I think this started with the PCO once upon a time, diba, were a crowd
Okay, okay,
of
yeah, yeah.
vloggers. And then they're probably going to, or they may be using AI already, who knows, no? Any thoughts about that, no? Again, they're a potential competitor for your market, no?
Yeah. They are really competitors for the market. My only issue with them is like, syempre we know like freedom of the press and all that, but there's also media ethics.
Yes.
There's also media responsibility. And if you answer to no one, who's to say now what you're going to put out is for the sake of the people? I
Mm.
mean, 'di ba, parang kung walang editorial check na nangyayari sa kung anumang content yung nilalabas mo, edi kahit ano lang sabihin mo, pwede, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm.
And I think um they could categorize themselves under more of opinions,
Sure.
columns,
Sure.
ganyan, and not really news per se. Because I feel like even me as a medyo seasoned journalist na, I still have an entire editorial team checking my stories before it goes on air or before it goes published online.
Mm-hmm.
Hindi yun parang nag-submit ako, okay, yun na yun lalabas. Maraming checks na dumadaan. I think for me, it's like 5 people after me.
Okay.
And I think it helps kasi thresh out the story and, make sure everything is proper, everything is correct. And if you don't have that kind of strict editorial check,
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to just make up things. And that's something na kahit na sabi mo pwede kang mag-cover, no, hindi pa rin talaga. Parang iba pa rin talaga yung level of journalism. And I think for journalists, di ba sinasabi natin yung citizen journalism? I think for journalists, you can pick up stories from citizen journalists, but
Mm-hmm.
then you do your own legwork after. For example, sa akin, for example, sa GMA, I would find stories online. Kunwari, may scam na ganito, and I see it online. Someone already went viral, like covering the story, but then you want to get to the bottom of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
find the source. You do your own interviews, you get all the different sides of it, and then that if it's really newsworthy, then that's when you write or do a story on it. Not
Right.
just because yun yung viral or yun yung uso, yun yung ipapalabas mo na. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the difference between content creators and like hardcore journalists, that we are kind of kept into a tighter leash, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Parang mas may control sa pinoproduce namin na content.
So ultimately, that's really the dividing line, no? And I'm not saying AI and journalism, but more of journalists and non-journalists.
Mhm.
There will always be that code of conduct, that standard of ethics that will separate a proper journalist from anyone else who would call themselves that.
Yeah. And we can be sued for libel.
Right.
If it was just someone who was posting online tas walang pangalan, paano mo isi-sue for libel yun, 'di ba? If it's, for example, a username na pretty girl 123, paano mo hahanapin yun? I don't think you can if the person is smart enough, you wouldn't even be able to track the person down. How do
Yeah.
you sue that person for libel? So, I think yun din yung dahilan kung bakit mas ano kami, parang mas stick to the standards dahil alam namin may possible repercussions, hindi lang sa amin as journalists, but our company
Yeah.
also.
Right.
Because you commit a mistake that's big enough, you lose the trust of your viewers, of your readers. And if you're a journalist and there's no trust sa'yo, then what are you? And I think that's a big delineation sa mga tao na gusto lang mag-post na wala, pa-viral lang, ganun.
Mm. Yeah, just thinking out loud then, no? And by the way, I realized we're almost at the hour. Bilis, no?
Mhm.
um, do you see, I mean, again, it's more of an opinion thing. Media companies are getting shut down. And as a result, we also see some journalists who used to be part of some big house are now going independent.
Mhm.
So obviously you're still with a big network. Where do you see kind of journalism going? I mean, just your gut on this. How is it evolving? And then obviously AI, how do you see that playing in the next few years?
I think for the having a lot of players is good. I mean, it shouldn't be good for me, right? Because it's a competitor. But I think it's good because it keeps everybody sharp. It keeps everybody on their toes. Na, of course, you wanna produce the best story that you can, the fastest that you can, dahil ang dami mong competitor. So it's good for journalism as a whole. It's good for the public.
Mm,
Kasi dahil marami kami na nagko-compete for your time, for your attention, mas nape-pressure kami na gumawa ng mas maganda at mas mabilis
mm,
na storya.
mm.
And I think that the important thing lang talaga is that there's always an editorial check. It can't just be like one person. One person like doing everything. There has to be like an accountability. Kahit dalawang tao kayo, okay, basta you keep each other in check. And with regards to I think I'm not sure if Filipinos are already open to generative AI. I'm not sure. But if for me as a journalist, if it helps me do my job easier, then I'm all for it. I honestly don't think na magkakaroon ng layoff sa amin in the near future because parang wala AI taking our jobs. I honestly don't think so. And if if anything, ang hirap na ng trabaho ng isang journalist. Parang you're overworked. There's so much there's so many things to be done, and anything that could ease the load is always welcome para sa amin. So if AI could help us with those things and can do it in a way na maganda,
Acceptable level.
then
Yeah.
yeah, then yeah, I'll have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I wanna dig deeper into that, no. Because it's a weird thing, at least for me, that whenever AI comes out, there's always a fear of job loss. And with a case in point, I think you might have a unique perspective on this, yung the sportscaster AI of GMA. Do you have any thoughts about why that's always the case? Parang palaging ganun when AI is out, especially if it's AI that looks remarkably human or decently human. People always say, "Oh, kasi ba yun yung mga comments eh, GMA is going to replace everyone with robots, blah blah blah." I mean, it felt very irrational for me. I was very surprised how negative. I mean, I can tolerate maybe 50% less, 30% negativity. But I thought it was actually a breakthrough. But baka I'm reading it wrong. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think people watch too much Black Mirror. Parang, parang masyado na silang natakot sa
True.
possibilities, the negative, parang the monster AI.
Uh-huh.
Yung mga Ultron, ganyan. Parang masyado tayong na-absorb na sa ganung napapanood natin siguro or nababasa natin na anything that slightly resembles it scares us.
Mm,
And for example, me, because I'm in GMA, so I know what the use of Marco and Maya was.
okay.
So it's for those of you who don't know, it's a promotion, it's a promotional campaign, and it's not meant to replace any of the actual sportscasters or the courtside reporters or kung anumang host na meron dun
And
sa
wait, can we say actually for the record, you know where this is going,
yeah.
na you are not Maya. Tama ba?
No, I'm not Maya. I'm not Maya. Actually, marami nagtanong sa akin, ikaw ba si Maya? Ganyan, sabi niya, ginaya ba yung itsura mo? Sabi ko, hindi. Nakita ko na yung kung paano nila ginawa. As in, sobrang random lang nung pagkakagawa nila kay Maya at Marco.
Eh baka naman when they generated the Maya avatar, say attractive Filipina sportscaster, Mav Gonzales yung ginamit
Baka
ng AI.
mahanap nila yung mga picture namin. Ganun na yun.
Oh,
Pero,
just kidding.
tinumatas mukhang K-pop si Marco. And anyway,
Yeah, initially, 'di ba? There's that
yeah.
K-pop
Mukha
vibe,
siyang
no?
K-pop. Actually, maski yung final, ano niya, medyo hanbin yung itsura niya eh. Yan.
Mm, okay.
Anyway, ako halimbawa, because I was a sportscaster before I was a news reporter.
Yeah.
And because it was explained to me what the purpose of Maya and Marco was, even if I was still a sportscaster, I wouldn't feel threatened na papalitan ako ni Maya, ganyan. Kasi yung ginagawa lang niya ay trivias lang ng
Yeah,
NCAA.
they're not even the majority of the cast, right? Parang
Yeah. And they're
typical.
for social media. They're not for for anything else.
Right.
So I think nagulat siguro yung mga tao dahil it was the first time. I think it's the first time, right, na in Philippine TV or Philippine media
Mm,
history na merong ganun. So I guess nagulat yung mga tao.
yeah.
But um knowing what I know about the purpose of Maya and Marco and the fact na alam ko na walang natanggal sa trabaho
Yeah.
dahil dun sa kanila, parang makes me think na okay, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it was pretty cool. I think people were saying na bakit hindi na lang tao yung nilagay niyo dun na nagbigay ng mga trivia, ganyan-ganyan, blah blah blah.
Pero wait.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not misquoting, but you guys actually hired new sportscasters, if I recall. Di ba there was this parang 12.
Yeah, we did. Every NCAA season we have courtside reporters. I'm not sure
Hmm.
how many. I think like 8
Yeah,
girls.
but there was more than a few. So I don't know, were they even mentioned? Baka yun yung point. Parang we made a big deal about Maya and Marco, but we didn't mention na actually there's a big bunch of new
I think
courtside reporters.
I think that was the issue because Maya and Marco were released before the courtside reporters.
Ah,
But
okay.
we actually had courtside reporters. We have
Yeah.
actual courtside reporters, you have actual commentators and
Hmm.
sportscasters. It's just that parang siguro nagulat yung mga tao na, hala, wala pang pinapakilalang courtside reporters, tas biglang may Maya and Marco. But rest assured, there was nobody replaced because we have Maya and Marco. We still have everybody. We have Martin Javier, we have Anton
Mm.
Rojas, we have everybody. Actually, meron pa nga kaming isang kasamang reporter, si Nico Wahe, who
Mm.
wasn't part of the original roster. Now he's sportscasting. So,
Nasaman siya, okay.
oo, so hindi may natanggalan ng trabaho. Actually, meron pang nagkakatrabaho eh. So, I think it was just the initial shock.
Mm.
It was the initial shock that something so human-like could be out there.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, if you didn't know it was AI, yung screenshot, they look pretty real.
Yeah, they're
Si
human.
Maya and Marco.
Ikaw nga si
And
Maya, di ba? Everyone thought
oh,
you were Maya. Okay.
kapatid ko si Maya.
Yeah, she
So,
could be your cousin or something.
siguro nagulat lang talaga yung mga tao. Pero um I'm not sure if it will ever be used for the news.
Mm.
Siguro hindi. Siguro it's for the lighter story. Siguro entertainment, baka magkaroon ng ganyan. Pero, yung isang sinabi rin nila is, hindi man tatakbo yan si Maya at si Marco kung walang tao behind it. So, yung mga sinasabi nila, hindi silang nag-generate nun.
Yeah.
So, meron ding taong nagsusulat ng scripts nila and binabasa lang nila. Parang finifeed sa AI yung words and then sinasabi nila. So actually, a lot of people are working on Maya and Marco. Like if it was just a hire of Maya and Marco, that's 2 people, right? But you have maybe 10 people working behind the scenes for Maya and Marco. So more people are actually working because of them.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I don't know if you caught this Washington Post article by Regine Cabato. I was actually part of that research on digital sweatshops. I don't know if you're familiar. Basta
Mhm.
the bottom line was there's a Silicon Valley company, and then they were hiring people in the Philippines to do data annotation. Alam mo yun,
Mhm.
this is a cat, this is a dog, or finishing sentences. Kasi yan yung raw material, no, that AI
Yeah.
uses to be
Mhm.
intelligent. But, the issue was, it was an abusive setup. They weren't paid minimum wage, mga ganyan. Pero I think the mind-blowing thing there was, rather than job loss, jobs were being created, maybe not the jobs we like. And then secondly, yung point mo na for every AI that you think automates stuff and could potentially take jobs away, there's quite a lot of people behind it. I mean, literal labor and work. So they actually end up, I don't know kung net positive, pero they actually end up creating jobs.
Mhm.
So I think that's I mean, food for thought na most people don't really pick up at face value. Kasi nga, everyone's just glued to their screen and think,
Yeah.
yan na yung
Mhm.
mundo mo. Okay, sige. We're just about out of time, but I'd like to ask, what I mean, being someone who's been in the industry for some time, sabi mo nga ancient ka na, although not quite yet. um, what are your tips or advice for aspiring journalists who are now coming into their jobs in the era of AI? I think you and I were both privileged to know the world before and then now the world with. No, it's kind of
Yeah.
like maybe a decade ago or a couple decades ago where people knew the world before the internet, and then
Mhm.
now everyone takes the internet for granted. Maybe at some point people take AI for granted. So for those aspiring journalists, the future Mavs, no, the future Mayas. How do you, I mean, any guidance that you can give them based on your experience?
I think I always say this. First of all, you do not enter journalism because you want to have a glamorous life, because you want to get famous or you want to get rich. You do this because you have a heart for it. You have a heart for telling stories and covering stories. And that's the one thing na feeling ko hindi magagawa ng AI in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Have that human component in the stories. But at the same time, we shouldn't be scared or aloof sa technologies that are available to us to make our jobs easier. Because, like I said earlier, ang hirap din ng trabaho ng isang journalist. So to shy away or to shun technologies that can actually help you do your job is kind of parang kang nagtampo sa bigas na ayan na nga yung tutulong sa'yo, tas ayaw mo pa tanggapin. Siguro lang
Mm,
be discerning pa rin. I
right.
mean, not all websites and apps are created the same. So you have to be discerning which ones you use And as always, you do your own checks. Like it can give you, I don't know, an outline of what you have to do or some sort of backgrounder. But then you do your own research, you do your own fact checking. And 'di ba sabi nga nila, it's so cliche, but like the only constant thing in life is change. And
Totoo
if
yan.
you're not able to change, you wouldn't survive in this world, especially if nakita natin yung advancement of technology ngayon, medyo intense siya eh, 'di ba? Unlike before na parang every 5 years lang nagkakaroon ng bagong technology. Ngayon parang yung yung bago 6 months ago, obsolete na.
Wala
Ha.
na. It's old na.
So, kailangan marunong ka mag-adapt. So, if you want to be a journalist, I think you have to learn how to adapt to
Mhm.
the working conditions without sacrificing your values.
Yep.
Your values have to be permanent. The technologies, the platforms, the sources, they could all change,
Mhm.
but you have to be true to your values as a person and as a journalist because that's the one thing that will set you apart from any kind of AI there will ever be, I think.
Yeah, tsaka actually that's the only thing that stays with you. I mean, later on, age takes away everything,
Yeah.
except your values. Yun na lang. Or maybe your memories, no? Okay. I want to thank you, Mav, for giving us your time. I know you have such a busy, hectic schedule, and for sharing your insights. I mean, one thing that I think we don't haven't had enough of is especially journalists, no? It's just meeting and it's not limited to AI. Like for now, for example, as of this interview, we're reeling from a recent spate of cyber attacks. And
Mhm.
and that's another topic that for some reason journalists don't cover too much, or maybe there's a very niche subject. But actually cyber attacks affect everything, no? I think it's not just your computer, it's your digital life. Parang ganun na rin. AI will eventually get to that. And I like that you're quite open about it. So I'm very thankful for the time you've spent with us today.
Thank you po. Thank you, Sir Doc, for having me. And I hope I gave some some sensible insights.
Yeah, for sure. And then maybe at one time we chance upon your schedule again and maybe we can have a part two.
Yes. And I'm not Maya.
For sure. For the record.